We have got some incredible questions to answer today. Are you excited to jump in, Cam?
I'm buzzing, to borrow a phrase from you, buzzing to jump in. I'm really excited about these questions. I'm excited about all their questions, but can I just say, while I was going through and picking out questions for us to answer, I started to get like depressed. I was like, so many people need our help and our advice, and we can only do so many questions at the same time. And it's like, what if they need advice right now and I don't get to it? But all the questions are so good. It's really hard to choose.
Yeah, we are so grateful. We've had so many questions on the Google Doc. I think we're pushing 100 now, which is insane. And we will get to you guys. We will. We are here once or twice a week. Every week, we will get to you.
And exciting sort of new thing for the podcast this week. We got some really good listener feedback about a common topic we keep bringing up on the pod. And somebody sent in an update to their situation that we gave advice on. So those two things will be at the end of the podcast. But like, love this, love the updates, love feedback. We want this to be like an interactive space that will be at the end of the podcast. And thank you to the people who sent those things in.
I am so excited to hear the listener feedback. We haven't had one of those yet. We've never had an update on a question. So this is so exciting, and I haven't heard it yet. So roll on the end of this episode. But let's start out with question one. Hey, girls. Quite a deep and difficult question for you both. I hope you can help. So, I've been with my girlfriend for just under 1 year. When we met, we had both just recently broken up with long-term partners, 6 to 8 year relationships. And at that time, we were both looking for something casual, but we ended up falling in love. Nonetheless, I am still processing the breakup from my ex 1.5 years ago. We had to sell our home, which took a long time. They moved on to a relationship with someone else they already knew very fast, which triggered some insecurity and fears of being cheated on, and they moved abroad. I'm telling you all this because I very much want a future with my current partner, and we are fully aligned on marriage and children, but I do feel some level of guilt that I have some unresolved emotions, resentment, and trauma around my previous breakup. The reason this is also difficult is my mum has a terminal illness. I'm extremely close with my mum, and so having her in my life for my wedding and having a baby is so incredibly important to me. So I feel the need to move on to these steps with my partner so that I don't miss my chance to have my mum around. My question is, am I rushing into this, knowing I'm still healing from previous hurts? And is it fair to my current partner to do so? If my mum wasn't ill, we'd have the luxury of taking more time to reach these milestones. It's probably worth mentioning that my family love my current partner and are fully supportive of any choices we make. I'm just not sure what the choice should be. This is a really, really tricky question, but thank you so much for sending it in. I'm going to throw this one over to Cam to start with.
Yeah, well, first, listener, let me say I'm so sorry that your mom is sick. That's really sad and really hard. And I wish you didn't have to go through that. I wish nobody had to lose people in their life or face losing people in their lives. Here's the thing. If there's two things in life that we don't need to rush, it's getting married and having kids. So I don't think you're being unfair to your partner. I think you and your partner are being thrown into an unfair situation. It's not fair that your mom is sick. That's not something you're doing. That is what the universe has thrown at you. So first of all, I don't think you're being unfair to your partner. But secondly, I do understand the hesitation before jumping into like having a baby or getting married, because those two things are huge commitments. Now, can I posit kind of a middle ground, or at least one idea in how to find a little peace with some of this, but not rush into anything? Can you throw like a celebration of love and life party to celebrate you and your partner and your future together? Have a nice fancy dinner, have your whole family there, have everyone get dressed up. It's not quite a wedding, but it is a celebratory event to celebrate the love that you have with your partner, and also like just to celebrate love and life in general. If your mom's not going to be around for the longest time, is that somewhat of a middle ground you could go to have a beautiful event with flowers and a beautiful meal, and perhaps everybody makes speeches about love and about children, and maybe you play like some baby shower games, or pick out like talk about favorite baby names, or everybody just shares a story. Your mom can tell the story of your birth, however, you guys want to share about like babies and love. And can you take a bunch of pictures and create like a really special memory around this celebration? Can that hold some comfort in your heart? If your mom has any advice for you about being a parent, can she share that with you at this event or write it up for you and give you a book of her best tips and advice. It's never going to be the same as like a full-on wedding with your mom there or having your first child with your mother there. It's not the same thing, and I'm not saying it is, but is there a way that you can kind of create this event and put some warmth in your heart and create some memories and have some beautiful photos and beautiful memories with your mom that can kind of help fill that space? Am I crazy, Gabby? I mean, what do you think?
I think you're onto a really good suggestion there. That isn't something that I immediately thought about when I heard this question, but I really like that take. I think your mum would love to feel included on that level. It sounds to me like you are definitely hesitant to get married and to have babies. And personally, I wouldn't rush that just because of the difficult situation that you are in right now. Obviously, you've said you really would love to have your mum there, and that would be the absolute ideal. But if it turns out with you having any sort of regrets, I don't think that that would be the right move to make. I was going to suggest something that might be a bit difficult, and I'm not sure how you would go about asking this of your mum. Maybe you could get one of her friends to talk to her and suggest it so it doesn't come from you. But if you did decide to not go forward with the wedding straight away while you're still processing your previous relationship and going through all of those feelings, would it be possible for your mum to record some sort of video that could be played on your wedding day so that she is there? She's there in spirit. She's there visually. You've got a video of everything that she would want to say to you on your wedding day. This is making me tear up. I'm not going to lie. Like, I actually am getting emotional. I need to shake it out. You guys, I have way too much empathy for these situations. I am such an empath. I feel everything so deeply. And sometimes these questions really get to me. And this is such a tough one because I just know if I was in the same situation, like I'm putting myself in your boots right now, I would not know what to do in this situation. But I think I would maybe ask my mum's best friend to ask her to make me some sort of video so that she is there on the day. But in the meantime, plan a party that she can be involved in. And it doesn't have to be a wedding party. It doesn't have to be a potential baby shower party for down the line. It could just be a party, and it could just be a celebration of your mom and of you and of your love and of everything that you've got to celebrate in your life. You don't even have to put a specific theme to the party. Just throw one and have your mom there and have those memories and those photos that you can cherish while you're still processing everything that you're processing right now. I don't think it's wise to rush into something that you're not 100% sure on.
Yeah. And another possibility, maybe your mom doesn't want to be on camera. Have her write some letters. She may do that anyway, but a video and a letter or a video for your wedding day and a video for maybe the day your baby's born, or a couple letters about, some of those events. And like, gosh, that is just almost a devastating conversation. But at the same time, as I've gotten older, I feel like I've just learned life is about the best sort of compromises that you can find, because you can't have it all. Isn't that the heartbreaking truth of the human existence? Life is loss in a lot of ways. We lose people that are close to us. Every episode we've had somebody come through and say, well, these people aren't my life anymore. This person's not my life anymore. I've lost somebody. I've lost something. Life is filled with loss, and finding ways to sort of navigate it without completely sinking your ship. So for example, imagine if you had a baby with this person and maybe you haven't processed everything with your ex and it just didn't turn out right. Well, gosh, would that be a really, really hard thing to go through? Or you rush into marriage, and sure, your partner right now is great and everything's working out great, but it is only 1 year. So it's just sort of like a lot can change over the years. I would hate for you to be sort of bullied by the universe and this sad situation with your mom into doing something you're not ready for.
The last thing that you want from this situation is to have any resentment towards your partner, because I don't think that's fair on them. Obviously, you're going through something so difficult, and my heart goes out to you completely. I can't imagine going through that, but you don't want to rush into anything and it turn out that it wasn't the right decision for you both, and you then harbor resentment for this person. I think the way to go is to throw a party and try and have your mum get some sort of message to you to keep for your wedding day and to keep for those special moments, whoever you share those moments with.
And at the end of the day, essentially like rushing into a marriage and rushing into having a baby, it sounds like you're hesitant to do those things because they're risky. I would agree that's sort of a risk. But sometimes in life, we decide that we can tolerate some risk. So that is going to come down to a personal situation. If you want to take a risk so you can make sure these milestones happen with your mom present, that's a calculated move that you are free to make. Maybe these other options we provided will give you a way to move forward and make some special memories without having to take on such a huge risk. But at the end of the day, that is for you to decide. No judgment here if you get married real quick, but I don't blame you for not wanting to take a risk like that.
I think something that would be really, really helpful in terms of how you process the feelings about your previous relationship is if you are able to try and get some therapy for that. That is a difficult thing to go through. You were with this person for a long time, and I think it is normal to have some sort of feelings there about that situation, but that is a problem to take to therapy and to try and get help with that way.
Yeah, you know, one thing I've heard, this is like a rule of thumb that gets thrown around. I don't think it's scientific or anything, but one thing I've heard people say is that the time it takes to get over a relationship is half the time of the relationship. So if you were with your ex for 6, maybe 8 years, that's 3 to 4 years. And if you don't have 3 to 4 years to do all that work and do all that processing, I do think you could turbocharge some of the healing process with therapy if you have access to it. So you've got some options, but again, just our deepest condolences because gosh, is that a heartbreaking situation?
Yeah, we're sending all the love in the world to you. I'm sure you'll make the right decision for you in the end.
Okay, moving on to question 2. So I slept with a kind of superior at work, and I want y'all to tell me if it's a dumb idea to keep it going. I'm in my late 20s, single, no kids, and hold a relatively high role in my corporate job, just shy of a director position. She, the superior that this person slept with, is mid 40s, single mom of a teenager, and a VP. She's not my direct manager and doesn't have any kind of disciplinary action over me. But because of our areas of focus, we are constantly working together. And she does delegate responsibilities to me that either I do myself or I pass on to my team. Basically, we had a team leader building thing for a few days and ended up sleeping together after too many drinks the first night and then continued to sleep together for the rest of the trip. Since then, we've hooked up a few more times and it's been really fun. The sex is good. I find her very attractive and I really don't see a downside to it. I have no interest in being in a relationship with anyone right now. Neither does she. And as far as I can tell, neither of us have caught any romantic feelings. I was telling my friends about it last night, and they all looked at me like I had 10 heads and told me I was insane and it was a horrible idea. But I don't see the harm in a friends with benefits type situation when it's not technically crossing a manager direct report line. What do you guys think? Am I being dumb?
Before we got to the part where you said I have no interest in being in a relationship, my gut reaction was, do you think you've met the love of your life? If so, keep it going. But if you both don't want to be in a relationship and it is just a fun, flirty thing, you can find that with someone else. And I think it's not worth risking the job. What do you think?
So I actually used to work in HR. So I actually reached out to one of my former coworkers who has her master's and has worked in HR, continue to work in HR. So for almost 10 years now. And I sent her your whole question. And I was kind of in agreement with what she said. So she said, it's definitely a little messy, but if they aren't their manager or above them in the hierarchy in any way, I guess it's okay. People meet people they marry at work. What's the difference? But if or when it goes to shit, it's really going to suck at work though. So I agree with all of that. Like relationships at work happen. And it doesn't have to be the biggest deal in the world if everybody's going to be an adult about it. I dated a girl I worked with once. It was fine. You know, we kind of kept it to ourselves, but we were on the same level. We had the same role and we weren't on the same team. So we didn't ever work together and nobody had hierarchy over anybody. It was all level playing field. But yeah, so it wasn't a big deal at all. But with you both having these leadership roles in the company, it is a little risky. My friend went on to say, I don't think it'll get them fired, but it couldn't hurt to check the employee handbook, which yes, check the employee handbook. There should be a handbook that gives you like the outline of what you can and can't do, what's expected at work. I think that's a really good idea. And then my friend said, would I do it? Not if I loved my job. So there is some risk here. And if you love your job, you're taking a risk. But let me just say, and then I'm going to throw it back to Cabbie because I can tell she's got something to say. But let me just say, there is a podcast called Savage Lovecast where this guy named Dan Savage, who's a writer, gives relationship advice and love and sex advice. And I've been a fan for a long time. It's part of the inspiration for this podcast, although we kind of cover different things. He's like a gay guy and he gives like straight people relationship advice. And that's kind of his shtick, like telling the straight people how bad they are at sex, basically. Anyway, I'm a fan. And one thing he's always saying is he gives this metaphor. He uses snowboarding, but I'm going to use backpacking to make it more cam related. So I go out long distance backpacking. I'll hike 15 miles in the day in the middle of the woods. I'll set up camp. I'll sleep in a tent. And there's a lot of risk involved in that. There are bears in the woods. There are venomous snakes in the woods. There are strange men in the woods. And there are trees that can fall on you in the middle of the night. If you camp below a dead tree with like big branches, they call those widow makers because they're so apt to fall and they can just crush your tent. So there's all sorts of risk out there, but it's really fun. So I go out and do it. There is risk involved in everything. There was risk in our last question. There's risk involved with this. But if it's really fun, like backpacking is, or to use Dan Savage's metaphor, he talks about snowboarding. You can crash and break your leg and get a concussion and do all sorts of damage to yourself when you're snowboarding. But it's really fun. So you assume a little risk when you go out and have sex with people or when you have these taboo relationships. So if you can tolerate the risk, okay. But at the end of the day, I kind of agree with Cabbie. If it's just good sex, can't you find somebody else to have good sex with?
Well, you've just made me terrified for your next backpacking trip by talking about the widow tree.
Widow makers.
Please never sleep under one of them. I would be terrified for you because obviously I'm not going on this trip with you. I'm staying in my comforts.
Sometimes there's nowhere else to put your tent.
Babe.
That happened on my last trip. It was our last night and there was just nowhere. The campsite was so full. There were dozens and dozens and dozens of people. We hiked up this hill. There were all these tents. We couldn't find anywhere. Finally, I just said, fuck it. Slept underneath a widowmaker.
That is terrifying. I'm actually going to be nervous next time you go backpacking now. You should not tell me that.
You should be. There's all sorts of deadly things out there. You better treat me real good while I'm still here with you.
Maybe I could marry you now and then take your money if you sleep under a widow tree.
What money?
I know. Okay. My final thoughts on this. This could turn messy very quickly. I know you said that neither of you has feelings right now that you know of. Obviously, you clearly haven't spoken to the other party in this and seen if they have feelings, but you could get feelings very quickly. I am assuming this is a lesbian relationship. If it's not, forgive me, but women loving women relationships go very, very quickly. You could be moving in with them next week. And I just think this is a really sticky situation that you could get yourself in. If it is just fun sex, find fun sex elsewhere. That is my final advice.
I kind of agree. I can appreciate sometimes the need to take a little risk, to have a little fun. I get it. I like backpacking, all those things. I just feel like since this isn't your soulmate, love of your life, then find the sex somewhere else. And if you guys do develop feelings for each other, then you can go to HR and establish yourselves as a relationship. And then that kind of covers everybody's asses.
I think the issue is, what if one of you gets feelings and the other doesn't? That would make the work situation very uncomfortable. Yeah. And while you're not at that level right now, I'm not sure it's worth it to carry it on.
And she's got a teen, she's got a kid, so her life is kind of complicated.
I'm so happy that you're having great sex. Well done to you. But sometimes I don't think it's worth it. And this is one of those situations.
I do have to say, they said the sex was just good. Find good sex with somebody that isn't at your workplace.
That is such a good point. If it's not blowing your mind, the decision is already made for you. Don't carry this on. But if it is blowing your mind, that does make it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, if it's not the best sex of your life where you're having 10 orgasms all in one go.
Who does that?
I don't know. I've heard some people do. Then let's move on. Right. If you love this job, the job, your income, your career, but it's more important than just good sex. If this was mind-blowing 10 orgasm in one go sex, then I would say, okay, let's take the risk. But just for good sex, I think we can find good sex somewhere else. Right?
Wholeheartedly agree. Well, good luck with that situation anyway.
And please send an update.
Hi, lovelies. I really need some advice and I'd appreciate if you could help me, pretty please. Myself and my partner have been together over 2 years now, in brackets, I know it's not long, ... I fell pregnant and we've just welcomed a beautiful baby girl into our lives. Wasn't planned, but it's the best thing ever. I stay at home to look after the little one while my partner works endless hours at work to bring the money in, etc. I also do get maternity pay from work, so we aren't broke or anything. I know we have a little baby, but when he has days off, we barely do anything, and he only seems interested in playing his Xbox with his friends. Let me say, he is amazing with the baby. He comes home and cuddles her, feeds her, etc. I go to the gym and have a bath, so he makes an amazing effort with the baby and he is a great dad. I just feel he makes no effort with me anymore. I feel the spark may have gone. I've tried to talk to him about it, but he's always working or just doesn't say much. Anyway, I need some advice. How do I bring the spark back? Sexual and romantic. Do I give him a chance to bring it back as he's making no effort? Or do I just call it quits? Our baby is 2 months old now, so it's not just like she has just come home and he's tired from the birth. Also, I do all the night shifts with the little one as he works, so I want to make sure he has sleep. Should I give him an ultimatum? Or should I just end it? As I've kind of had enough of waiting, and I have tried. I also don't feel super confident in my skin as I gained a lot of weight during pregnancy. So I've been going to the gym and I've tried to do sex and stuff, but he's just not interested. Also, if I do end it, I'm worried about the relationship with the little one. In brackets, my mom was a single parent and I have no relationship with my dad as he was an idiot for many reasons. He just didn't bother with me and my sister for pretty much our whole life. Please give me any advice. I don't care if it's brutal. What do I do as it's making me miserable now? Let me add, we have over 6 months left on our rental place. Okay, this is a question that comes with a lot of questions. I feel like there is a lot to answer in this. Do you want to start us off with one of the many things we could talk about?
Well, I think the one question is she's unsatisfied and unfulfilled in her romantic relationship right now, particularly from a romance or sexual spark standpoint. And she's wondering, what does she do to fix it? Or should she just leave? Let me say, listener, congrats on expanding your family. Congrats on the baby girl. That's wonderful. I have to lovingly say, I think you're being a little hasty to be so in such despair only 2 months after the baby is born. Don't they tell you to wait like a minimum of 6 weeks to have sex just for the woman to heal? So we're only 2 weeks outside of that window. So he's only had a 2-week window to have like sex with you. Now, of course, he still could be being romantic, doing dinner dates or doing date activities. There's lots of ways to have sex outside of just penis and vagina sex. So I'm not saying he couldn't have been intimate with you in the time. When you say, oh, it's been 2 months since the baby was born, as if that's ages, I'm like, oh, so 5 minutes ago, the little human you guys created together crawled out into the world and started screaming at people and doing baby things. Am I crazy in thinking she needs to just give all of this a little more time?
Firstly, I want to say congratulations, not only for the baby, but for getting your sex drive back so quickly, because I've heard that a lot of women who give birth, their sex drive takes a long time to come back. So honestly, claps to you for that. I'm very proud of you. When it comes to the Xbox thing, I feel like if that was me in that situation, I would be getting a little bit upset about it. But you also have to remember that you have a little baby and he seems to be working a lot of the time. That might just be the only way that he feels like he can unwind right now. The only time that he maybe gets to himself.
Can we all just keep in mind that parenthood is fucking crazy and it changes how we see the world, we see each other, at least my understanding from talking to like new parents. He might be seeing you a bit as mommy now. And I'm not saying that's like fair, but I feel like it is maybe somewhat understandable if you now have this baby that has come out of you and you are taking care of, and he might feel a little funny because he loves this baby so much and he feels very parental. And to me it's sort of like the opposite of sex is babies, which is so funny because babies come from sex, but like the least sexual thing in the world is a baby, right? We all agree on that, right? So the feedings and the diapers and all of that, that's a beautiful part of parenthood to many people, I'm sure. But if he's associating you with that baby so much and feeding the baby and changing the baby and managing the baby, I can see that interfering with his sex drive a little bit, because now you're the baby lady, and I wish he didn't see you like that. And maybe he doesn't, but I'm not saying it's like fair that this is what happens. It's like you have sex, you're horny for each other, you have sex, then a baby comes and it's like the opposite of sex. This sort of horror show of dirty diapers and screams and vomit, right? It's a tough thing to go through. It's an extreme thing to have a baby. And he may just be associating you with the baby so much that he doesn't see you as, the sexual being that you very much obviously are. And that sucks. But I would say First and foremost, let's give it a little time. I don't know that a few weeks, a handful of weeks of this missing affection, I wouldn't be considering ending a relationship, particularly with the father of my child, because now it's not just you guys anymore. As you point out, you have a family. So it's about what's best for the family. Now, I think if this was to go on for years, absolutely. If you're not getting your needs met, you go find someone who meets those needs. But you're in a transitional period. It is not always going to be like this. The baby is not going to be spewing vomit and screaming all night all the time. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't, use your words a bit and let him know what's going on. Can you give him the opportunity to rise to the challenge of being an affectionate partner? Can you set a monthly date night? It's you and him, grandma or grandpa's got the baby, or a babysitter's got the baby, and you guys are out for a fancy dinner and a show or dinner and dancing. Tell him you're really missing physical intimacy. Say, I am missing physical intimacy, and it is having an effect on how I view our relationship. No threats to move out, no threats to break up, not yet. I'm not saying there's not a time and place for that, but gosh, 2 months after this little person came into your lives and turned everything upside down is just really fast because everything's still upside down. Don't you think, Cabbie?
Yeah, we also have to take into account postpartum pregnancy hormones. That might be contributing a lot towards how you're feeling right now, because this is quite a hasty way to act, to even be considering ending it after 2 months if you say he is a good father and he's doing the things that he should technically be doing right now, but your sex life has just taken a bit of a hit. It is quite hasty to want to throw that away and not give it a shot. So I wonder if your pregnancy hormones might need to be looked into.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe this is a meeting of you two where you guys are meeting each other with different needs. Maybe he needs this decompression time to just survive the goddamn work week. And maybe
Mm.
you need, this affection that he's not bringing to you. Maybe you're not giving him space to recover. As you said, he works all the hours, he works all the time to bring home the money. Work is hard, right? Like, work is
Mm.
hard. Any job is going to take it out of you. This is something you guys got to team up on. I don't think you need to see it as, I feel like you're kind of seeing this as like, he's your adversary. Like, you've got to kind of win him over into desiring you sexually. And I don't think that's the case. I guess, can you talk to him about how can we set the scene so you're feeling sexually attracted to me? And how can I support you in your decompression time? And how can we find a way to compromise in the middle where you get your time with your Xbox and your friends to decompress, because everybody does need that. But then I get my date time. And I agree with Cabbie. Get your hormones checked. Maybe there's something going on there if you're feeling a bit extreme about it.
Yeah, it's hard to be in the house all day with a new baby, from what I hear, but it's also hard to be at work all day when you've got a new baby at home who is maybe keeping you up at night. Maybe you're not getting the best sleep. I think you're both living very different lives right now, even though you are going through the same situation, if that makes sense. And you've just got to figure out how you can work together and how you can move forward with this relationship if it's something that you both want.
And then one other thing you want to say, talking about how you gain weight during the pregnancy and you don't feel super confident in your skin. Whoever needs to hear it, it is normal and healthy for women to gain weight during pregnancy, and we're not holding that against ourselves. You just used your body as a factory to make another human life. You're gonna have some effects on your body, and let's try and be as gentle with ourselves as we can about that.
Yeah, that is a super important message. I'm glad you brought that up.
Hopefully some of this advice rings true and you guys can find that middle ground where you can get some of the spark back in your relationship, but everybody's needs are still being met. Moving on to the next question. My best friend broke up with her boyfriend about a year ago and has since lived her best single life, and I'm happy for her. She's dated many people and felt confident in that, but I can't help feeling like she's changed as a person. She is now really into male attention and drinking every weekend, which are two things we used to bond over not prioritizing. I don't feel like we're as close, and I'm worried she's just fundamentally different to who she was before, because she did get with her boyfriend quite young, so maybe she was suppressing this side of herself, and this is who she really is. What should I do?
This sounds to me like a situation where she might be using the drinking and the male attention to distract herself from the breakup. I wonder if that is the issue here. What do you think when it comes to that?
It could be a couple things, right? Sometimes in life, as we discussed last week, people do just change. And the more used to that we can get and the more accepting of that we can get, the easier it is on us to just sort of accept change instead of struggle against it. But it's very understandable to not want your best friend to change. They're your best friend for a reason. You want them to be just who they always were to you. And it does sound like she's changed. The real question is the change permanent? Like Gabby just mentioned, it's possible that this is sort of temporary and it's just her rebound phase. It's her Rumspringa, if you will. We're going to have to make Rumspringa merch. Is this a Rumspringa? Is this something she's just going to do for a limited period of time? Just get out there and some might say live to the fullest. Can you give it time? And I feel like we need like, can you give it time merch? Because, time heals all wounds and give time to a situation to see. Like, I feel like that is advice we come back to, but I guess I just wonder, how long has this been going on? Has she been doing this for like 3 weeks or has it been 6 months? If it's just been a few weeks or a month or two, maybe just give it a little more time. If it's been going on and on, yeah, maybe she's fundamentally changed. And if that's the case, kind of similar to what we said last week, that's an opportunity to just go make new friends. And you can still keep her in your life somewhat, but if you guys have different values, that can get in the way of friendship sometimes. It doesn't hurt to try and be as understanding as possible about what it can do to someone to like be with a person for a really long time since they were young. It can almost become your identity and you lose that person and then you lose your identity to an extent. And so if she's having a bit of an identity crisis, I don't think it hurts to try and be as understanding of that as you possibly can. But at the same time, I get it. She's not the same person that you're used to. And that's really tough. So I'm sorry that you're going through that.
I think it's important that you have a conversation with her and see where she's at, because it sounds like she is drinking quite heavily and she might have started that as a coping mechanism to get over the breakup, but it might now just be her normal. I think you should sit her down and talk to her and ask how she's doing in her head. If she is using going out and getting male attention and getting validation that way as a coping mechanism, or if this is just what she enjoys now and she has just changed the person and she's got a new hobby and it is drinking and going out. I think there's 2 ways that this could go, but it is important to check in with her and make sure that her mental health is okay.
Yeah, I definitely think it's never a bad idea to check in and say, how are you? I think that's a lovely question to ask people sometimes when there's a bit of conflict in the air. It's just to check in and be like, how are you? What is going on here? We used to never drink. You drink a lot now. Is there a reason for that or are you just having fun?
Yeah, and when people change so drastically, there can be a bigger reason for that. And if you are her best friend, I think you should be there for her for a little while just to make sure that she's okay.
I don't know that I would hastily end the friendship. It depends on how long this has been going out for. And let me also say, if it's not just she has different interests and values than what we both used to share in common, hers are different now. If it's not just that, but also if she's also, say, ditching you to hang out with guys, going out with you and then leaving you alone at the bar, making plans with you and then canceling, getting into drama, running out, getting drunk, you've got to go pick her up and drive her home. If she's like doing shitty behavior towards you, that's a different thing. And then I say, absolutely, by all means, distance yourself and just let her know this isn't my scene.
But also, what is the reason for that? Because when that behavior does happen to a person who didn't used to be like that, there might be something deeper going on. Ultimately, that is the thing that you need to know before you decide what to do moving forward.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to check in, but nobody needs to be put up with being treated poorly. Or you just start going out and getting drunk with her. I wouldn't actually suggest that, but you got options.
Maybe have a wild night out with her and see how much fun it is. You might fall in love with it too.
Listen, is it possible you want to actually be doing all this too? And then you guys could just be shit shows together. No, we're kind of joking here. Good luck to you and check back in with us if you would like to.
Let's round this episode out with the final question. Hey, Gabby and Cam, I have absolutely loved every episode of the podcast that has come out so far. First of all, can I just say thank you quickly? That's so lovely. Anyways, I need advice on a situation that took place 2 days ago. So my boyfriend and I have been together for almost 6 years. Last year, we took our relationship a step further and moved in together into an apartment, and things have been going really great. Even after 6 years, I'm still head over heels for him. We really haven't had any major bumps or arguments since we have gotten together because we just get along so well. He has never given me any reason to not trust his faithfulness or loyalty until recently. So, 2 days ago, we were getting ready for bed, and I was sitting on my laptop and he was sitting on the phone. He recently started posting fitness content on Instagram because he's always been into working out and wanted to start sharing his knowledge. So, when I looked over at him this night, I saw he was looking at the likes of his most recent reels, and then he clicked on the profile picture of a girl bodybuilder and was scrolling through her page until he came across a picture of her and her kid and then left her page. When he did this, it piqued my interest as to what he was doing, so I naturally continued to look at his phone to see what he would do next. He then proceeded to look at Instagram stories, and when he came across a picture of another girl, he stopped to look at it. After the time of the story was up, he looked up her Instagram page and viewed the same picture twice. He then got off of Instagram and turned to me to talk to me like normal. I immediately got out of bed and went to the bathroom without saying anything back to him and stayed in there for about 20 minutes because I was initially absolutely furious with what I just saw him doing. Now, fast forward 2 days later. I've yet to say anything to him because I wanted to process my feelings and thoughts and wait until I wasn't just honestly blinded by my anger towards the situation. I definitely do feel that I have to communicate with him about how this made me feel and try to understand, I guess, his thought process behind what he was doing at that moment. But I'm not quite sure how to go about this. Also, do you think I'm overreacting about this situation? Because I feel like somewhat I am. This is the person I planned on being with for the rest of my life and to eventually get engaged or married to. And now I feel like this situation has me questioning everything. Would love to know your thoughts and advice. Thank you. This is a bit of a sticky situation. If you've never had any inklings not to trust him in the past, I'm not sure that this would be something worth losing that trust over right now. Okay, so when I'm on Instagram, I look up people all the time. When I go on my stories, I look who's viewing it. And if I just see a picture of someone I don't know, I look at their profile and it just is what it is. It's just me being a nosy bitch, to be honest. I want to know who's viewing my stories. I want to know who's out there liking my posts. And I do just give everyone a cheeky little stalk. And I'm wondering if he was just doing exactly that. If he'd never seen this girl before and he was like, wait, who is that? And he was just looking on Instagram to see who these people were. If he's never given you a reason to not trust him, I think you should hold that in your heart and move forward with that without bringing this up to him, unless it really, really, really has made you question everything. But nothing that you saw on his phone was anything too insane. It's something that I do every day. And if Cam saw me doing that and brought it up, I would just be like, oh no, I'm just being nosy. Like if you saw him writing messages to other girls, that is a whole different scenario, but that isn't what you saw here. He was just being a little bit of a nosy boy. What do you think, Cam?
I think there's two levels to this. Let's start with level one. And level one would be he's not like attracted to these women in any way. Let's explore level one. Why would he be looking at a woman's photos if he's not attracted to her? Well, it sounds like he's an aspiring influencer and he may be looking at other people's content. He may be interacting with other influencers because that's what you do as an influencer. Checking out the competition almost in a way. Oh, this girl has 5,000 followers. What's she doing right? Or whatever. You know, we can't all be Velvet Ghost.
Let me just put in here and say, you specifically said he checked out a bodybuilder's account. Maybe he was just looking for inspiration. Maybe he was just in awe of her. If he's a very sporty person, it could just be that he saw her as a bodybuilder and was like, whoa, that is so cool.
Yeah, it's possible that he just was looking at content that he likes. A lot of us get into content creation of content that we like. I love podcasts. You know, Cabbie loves beauty YouTube. Like she started making videos based on the videos she liked. I made a podcast because I love podcasts. I talk about pop culture because I love pop culture podcasts. Like he may have just been looking for inspiration. He may have just been enjoying like bodybuilder content. He may have just been checking out the competition, seeing this person's successful at what I want to be successful at. What do they do? What do they make? What's their deal? Or he could have just been curious. Who is this girl? I noticed she follows me. What's her deal? Okay, there she is. Oh, there's her and her kid. Okay, moving on with my life. You know, it really could be nothing. And I would say if he has never given you a reason to believe that he is a fuckboy, that he is, you know, really needing a lot of validation from many different women at the same time, I would assume that before I assumed anything else. he's your partner. If I was with somebody for 6 years and in love with them and planning on marriage and engagement and all of that and a life together, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. It sounds like he's a great boyfriend. It sounds like he's made you feel very secure in your relationship to up to this point. Has he not earned the benefit of the doubt for you to say, I didn't love the look of that. I didn't love to see him looking at other women. But at the end of the day, this is a guy I know, this is a guy I trust, this is a guy who has earned the benefit of the doubt from me for being a good partner.
I think it's worth pointing out that he was looking at these pictures while he was sat next to you, while you could see his phone. That to me says that there was nothing nefarious going on there. If he's comfortable enough to sit next to you in bed and scroll through Instagram, knowing that you can probably see his phone. I mean, I can sense when someone's looking at me. Maybe he could sense that you were looking at him and he was just like, it doesn't even matter. I'm just looking through Instagram. You've also got to keep it in mind that he was doing this in front of you.
Yeah, if he was doing something inappropriate, would he have done it in front of you? That's such a good point. That's such a good point. But let's go to level 2. Okay, let's go. I don't think level 2 is where reality lies. I think reality lies over in level 1. But let's go to level 2 and say he is checking out these women. He's looking at these women because he thinks they're attractive. Can I ask, is that the end of the world? I see hot people all the time. Cabbie, you see fit people all the time. Cabbie and I bond over other people we think we're hot. We're like, oh God, she is fucking hot. Being monogamous doesn't mean that you're not attracted to sexy people. Being monogamous means you make a choice to only be with your partner, despite possibly being attracted to thousands of other people. Like there's hotties everywhere you look. Everybody's hot in their own way, is my belief. You know, everybody's got something going for them. Even if he is looking at these women saying, oh, that's a bit of me, or whatever it is you Brits say, is that the end of the world? I can see it making you uncomfortable. Not everybody's like me and Cabbie and like loose with it and saying, oh, what a hottie. You know, we're very open with each other. We don't have huge jealousy issues. And we're lucky for that. I feel like that's a bit of a gay thing too. I feel like gay couples are always a little looser with like, oh, that's a hottie walking down the street. Like, oh, look, check them out. We drove by a guy today and he wasn't even that attractive, but he was shirtless and we were both just like, oh, look at him. Look at him go. And neither of us, I don't even think was attracted to him. It was for the laws, basically. If he's not liking and commenting and sliding into DMs, if he is just viewing with his eyes like, oh, that's a good looking woman, is that the end of the world? I'm not saying you have to be happy about it or that you should be totally comfortable and thrilled about it. But is it something you can let go and know that when maybe he's on Instagram, you don't need to be peeking over his shoulder because it might be a little uncomfortable to imagine that he's even attracted to some of these women? Can I just ask, is it the end of the world if he is actually attracted to them?
It is very normal to find people attractive. And if you see someone on Instagram, sometimes they are just very pretty and you do just need to have a quick second look at their beauty. And it doesn't mean that you want to get into bed with them. It doesn't mean that you're going to leave your partner to be with them. It just means that they're a very good looking person and you just want to have another little glance at them. And I think that is all that has happened here. Either that or he was just checking out the competition when it comes to the bodybuilding, when it comes to being an influencer. Maybe he wants to collab with this bodybuilder lady. Maybe he is literally just in awe of her because being a bodybuilder is a sport and it is dedication. And I know firsthand that a lot of sporty guys are really interested in looking up at bodybuilders. And it's not because they find them necessarily attractive. It's more for the sporty aspect of it and to be like, wow, you have got some commitment there. Let me see what you're doing with your body because that is amazing to see. Maybe it's just a situation like that. I don't think this is anything to worry about. Like, honestly, my gut is telling you, don't worry. He's given you all the trust over all of these years. And I think you should just run with that and trust him.
Is this not helpful to bring up, but like... porn exists. Surely he watches it. The digital landscape of today has really done some weird things where it's sort of, we see these humans on our screens, but they're depersonalized to us. And porn culture, which I'm not like blindly in favor of, porn can damage a lot of relationships and harm a lot of people. But in other ways, it can be like a great expression of sexual freedom and empowerment. So it just depends. It can bring people closer together. It just depends. But does he not watch porn? That's okay, right? Or are you not okay with that either? I don't know. Like, is this making it worse? Are you like, no. If that bothers you, just let's say he doesn't watch porn, but like we're looking at people all the time on our little screens. What about when he sees like an actress on television? Who's a really hot actress?
Selena Gomez.
When Selena Gomez flounces those titties, those beautiful breasts across
Oh,
street.
I know we are all looking.
We're all looking. And do we care? I don't. Gabby, do you care when I see Selena's beautiful assets on television?
No, that doesn't bother me at all. And I think you have to take this back to yourself as well. How do you feel when you see someone attractive? Do you take a cheeky little extra glance at them?
Yeah.
Is it anything deeper than that?
Listener, you're attracted to men, you have a male boyfriend. Like, when the hottest guy comes on screen or across your feed, do you not just say, I appreciate that human being? And you have a little look. Maybe you take a second look because they're really, really pretty. And then you move on with it. And does that mean you're not utterly dedicated and fully faithful to your boyfriend? Let's keep that threshold really high of what we're calling a betrayal. If looking at someone on Instagram is a betrayal, we're all fucked, right? And I'm not saying you're being awfully unreasonable and terrible. No, this caught you off guard and it was like a new experience for you. Maybe you've never sort of seen him interact with another woman or another woman in a digital space, and it just freaked you out. I'm not saying you're some horrible person for sort of having trouble processing in that moment. But I hope this conversation we've just had now is like opened you up to the idea that, yeah, it's probably not a case of any type of inappropriate behavior on his part. And it's just something that caught you off guard. And I would proceed with caution. I would try and internalize some of the things we said here and not bring it up to him. And maybe when he's on Instagram, you just know, okay, I probably don't need to be snooping over his shoulder too much because it's a bit uncomfortable for me to watch him do this completely normal thing I think that he's doing. But that doesn't mean you have to love it. And that doesn't mean you have to like shove it in your face that, yeah, he looks at other people. It could be for any number of reasons, from he's just curious about who they are to he wants to collab with them or create with them or take inspiration from their work. Or yeah, maybe he's like, oh, that's a good looking woman. Is that the end of the world? I don't know. Go easy on yourself. But I would say go easy on him too. And go easy on your relationship. Go easy on each other. I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt from you. And let's assume positive intent on his part. Let's assume that he was doing nothing wrong. And I think you'll just be happier to go through life like that. That's just me. Now, if he starts acting shady, if he's gone missing for large amounts of time, if he's sliding into DMs and you happen to notice it, any other shady kind of behavior goes on, all right, well, then we need to launch an investigation. And listen, if that happens, just DMs will help you with the investigation. But if not, I say move on with your life and don't worry, because everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely allowed to feel your feelings, but feel them, but let how he treats you speak louder than what you're saying in your head right now.
100%.
Okay, let's go on to a super exciting part of today's episode. We have got a listener update. Cam, fill us in.
Okay, so this is from the listener who wanted to go to the podcast recording event and was scared their mom would judge them for it. That was the episode we had Shannon from Fluently Forward on. Briefly, their issue was they thought their mom would judge them for like going to a podcasting recording event and call them a stalker and like not be supportive about them wanting to go meet up with some podcasters that they admire. So we said lie. We said it's not her fucking business and just say you're going to your friend Claire's house. But they have returned to update us. They said, "Hi guys, I wanted to update you on my mom's reaction to telling her that I'm going to a podcast event. I needed to tell her as she needed to know for dinner." Again, I don't know why you still couldn't have lied and just been like, I won't be in the house. But that's neither here nor there. They go on to say, "So I told her and she couldn't have cared less. She told me to, quote unquote, have a great time and didn't blame me for going as things at home aren't great. Thank you for your advice, but I didn't need to lie." Well, that's wonderful. So glad that she's been supportive. And sorry our advice was ass. We just have to, I think we have to issue an official podcast apology for our shit advice. I'm so glad the first follow-up we had is someone who's like, actually, You guys are fucking idiots. I did the exact opposite of what you suggested, and it worked out great. Listeners, maybe this is your cue. Whatever we say, do the opposite of, and your life will be wonderful. But jokes aside, listener, I'm sorry things aren't going well at home, and I'm so glad you got to go to the events, and I hope it was great. Gabby, anything else for the listener?
Well done for being honest, because neither of us three would have been, and that makes you a better human than all of us.
But glad it turned out all right, and sorry our advice sucked dick. We'll try better next time.
Or we
Okay.
won't. We will inspire people to do the opposite of what we say, and it'll work out great for them.
Genuinely, we should keep a tally of people who did what we said and how it worked out, and people who did the opposite of what we said and how it worked out. And then maybe we'll just start, listen, here's our gut instinct, so go ahead and do the opposite of that.
We can make a color-coded pie chart and look at it in a year's time and do an episode seeing which feedback worked and which didn't.
Okay, and here is some feedback from a listener. They said, "Hey ladies, not a question, but something your listeners may find useful to hear. About a year ago, I got into the ethical non-monogamy or polyamory scene and started going to sex parties. Let me tell you, I have made so many new friends through going to the parties, and we all hang out outside of when we're going to the parties. So I would 100% recommend it to anyone thinking about trying it, not just for the dating and sex element, but also as a way to meet people with similar views who have similar lifestyles. Almost all of my quote unquote normal friends are in long-term monogamous relationships, so it's been great for me having lots of new people who I feel like I can relate to. The community is so welcoming, and sex parties are 100% not as scary nor as seedy as they sound. Love the pod. P.S. If you brought out Have You Tried Polyamory merch, I would 100% buy it."
Babe, after this comment, I'm thinking we need to get into polyamory and sex parties. We need to make friends.
Babe, no, we can make friends. I'm not sharing you. Not yet. Someday. I'll probably be down for it. I don't think you have the range, though. I'm going to be honest.
You can just stand and watch. Yeah, you are not being touched. Sorry.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that. So, well, actually, I guess it kind of depends on the layout of everything, but let's not get into it too much.
Let's park that idea for now. But I am so happy that this has inspired you to meet new friends and have new experiences. I'm actually so excited for you. When Cam was reading this, I was just beaming from ear to ear. Like, what a cool bit of feedback.
Thank you so much for sending in that story. I love that. And yeah, have you guys tried polyamory? The girl with the Instagram situation, probably not you.
Anyways, that is the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, if you want to send in a question, we've got a Google Doc linked in the bio of our Instagram at Stay at Home Girlfriends Pod. We would love for you guys to send in questions. Also, a little reminder that we have got a Patreon if you want extra content from me and Cam. That is called The Secret Society. We post new content on there every single week, and it is such a fun place to be. If you guys are in the Secret Society and you're listening to this episode, we love it so much when you comment and we get to reply to you. It just feels really personal and like the start of a really great community. So big love to our Patreon. Cam, do you have anything else to say?
No, just make sure you follow us on socials, Instagram at Stay at Home Girlfriends Pod, TikTok at Stay at Home Girlfriends. Check out the Patreon, like Gabby said. What do we have coming up on there this week?
Over on the Patreon this week, we've got an exclusive video that won't be on YouTube. We are heading on a beach trip this week. I'm very excited about that. It's going to be my first beach trip in America, but we're going to be filming the day of prepping for the beach trip. I know a lot of you guys love our vlogs together, so hopefully you'll enjoy that. And what other content have we got?
Well, we just put up an episode where we deep dove and analyzed like every song on Olivia Rodrigo's Guts, including like Who Are They All About, which is quite juicy if you didn't know. Olivia's like the next Taylor Swift, so that was really fun. And we'll probably get on and chat near the end of the week about something or another, catch up with you guys.
We'll definitely do a recap of our beach trip as well. I'm sure some fun things will go on.
Yeah, so that'll be in the coming weeks as well. But I think with all that said, please remember you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, is deserving of your own love and affection.
And in the wise words of Taylor Swift, never take advice from someone who's falling apart. Bye.
Bye, everybody.